What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another Too Good for Theaters video. Today we are doing another draft prospect profile, this being the tight end from Bowling Green, Harold Fannin Jr., so let's get right into it. So starting off here with the profile, he is very similar to Tyler Warren. Of course, not as explosive as an athlete as Tyler Warren, but what I mean by that is he is extremely versatile and very similar to Tyler Warren. He was a guy who really played all over the offense for Bowling Green this year. I mean, there were times where he was lined up in the backfield, out wide in the slot, and of course on the inline there. But like I said before, very versatile. And it's not surprising just considering the athlete that he is. I mean, he has really good acceleration coming out of his routes. And when you pair that with his ability to really break off through contact and fight through contact, he becomes one of the better tight ends in terms of being able to really involve the entire route tree. And especially with his catch radius and his ability to high point the football, Harold Fannin really has shown that he's one of the better playmakers from this tight end position in this draft class. And he really stood out in terms of yards after the catch. And he specifically really likes to use his stiff arm ability. And it's shown that he has been able to really produce after the ball has been caught. And when you pair his height and weight with his dynamicism, especially with how a lot of teams were defending him, having some smaller defenders on him, it's something that he does have to take advantage of. And it might not translate as well to the NFL, of course, because there's going to be more physically gifted people on him, and those smaller guys are going to be able to hit harder than the smaller players in college. However, I do think that his ability with his athleticism and just his overall playmaking ability will allow him to succeed in this Patriots offense, especially from the tight end position, where they're really lacking in terms of a yards after the catch kind of guy. Of the three tight ends you have, and that being Hunter Henry, Austin Hooper, and Jaheim Bell is probably your most explosive yards after the catch guy, and we really did not see him on the field whatsoever last season, maybe 3 games at most. But Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper really aren't those guys who are going to have those big yards after the catch. They're more so just going to get open, maybe cause a little bit of separation here and there, but they aren't guys who are going to be gaining 10 yards after every catch. They're more so contested catch type of guys and just picking up the sticks really where the ball is caught at. But that would be something that Harold Fannin would be able to offer for this Patriots offense, the ability to extend plays from that tight end position. And really his one big kryptonite that really shows up on the tape thus far is his lack of strength, as well as his hand placement in terms of his blocking technique. And I would say that those kind of correlate with each other. Of course, it's more difficult to have better, proper technique when you're getting bodied every single time. But that is somewhere where he's going to have to improve if he wants to see his full capacity on the field in terms of playing time. He has to get stronger and develop this better technique. He really would probably be a tight end 3 for the Patriots right now just because of that, because Austin Hooper and Hunter Henry are probably that far ahead of him in terms of a blocking technique. And maybe even Jaheim Bell, who wasn't necessarily the greatest blocker coming out of college, would probably be ahead of him as well. But that is certainly the area that he has to develop the most. And you kind of wonder if he does develop this strength, will it kind of take away from his athleticism by gaining more pounds? So that would certainly have to be an interesting option for the Patriots to weigh out whether or not you think that his playmaking ability would be diminished if you ask him to put on a couple more pounds. But that really is Harold Fannin's draft profile. I expect him to probably be a 3rd rounder, 4th rounder. If a team really is desperate and tight ends are kind of falling off the board early here, he could potentially be a later 2nd round pick here. But with a deeper tight end class here, it's going to be interesting to see how teams really monitor these tight ends, whether or not they're going to reach for tight ends because they like their guys that much, or if they're going to let tight ends fall here because of the kind of general crop of the tight end class and how they have more depth options towards the later end of the draft here. So it's going to be interesting to see if teams are antsy to pick up a tight end early, or if they're more so willing to test out this depth in maybe draft some tight ends in the later rounds here. So we'll see what happens there, and hopefully Harold Fannin is going to be available for the Patriots, because I do think that his play style will offer a different dimension for this Patriots offense. So taking a look at Harold Fannin's stats here, in the 2024 campaign, he played in 13 games. He had an offensive grade of 95.9, a receiving grade of 96.4, a pass block grade of 38.2, a run block grade of 78.9, and a rushing grade of 78.9. Like I said before, he was targeted 150 times and came up with 117 receptions for a 78% reception rate. He had 1,555 yards. He averaged around 13.3 yards per reception. 10 touchdowns. He was 12 of 22 in contested catch scenarios, had 4 drops for a drop rate of 3.3%, averaged around 7.5 yards, yards after the catch per reception. He averaged around 3.7 yards per route run. He had an average depth of target of 7.5. So someone who really works in the in-between route, somewhere where that Drake May would certainly like to throw to, and especially over the middle of the field with an athlete like him who can pick up some yak yardage. That could certainly be a very good fit here for the Patriots, very similar to Tyler Warren. However, he did fumble once on the campaign. And taking a look at his run blocking scheme, he was more so a gap blocker compared to a zone blocker. He took 149 snaps from a gap blocking technique compared to only 89 snaps from a zone blocking technique. And he only took 5 pass blocking snaps. Like I said before, he was really that much of a receiving threat where they couldn't afford to have him be a more so pass blocker there. But taking a look at some of his key games here, at the Penn State game, he was targeted 13 times, came up with 11 receptions for 137 yards and a touchdown. And against Texas A&M, he was targeted 14 times for 8 receptions, 145 yards, and a touchdown as well. His 40-yard time was a 4.71. His 10-yard dash was a 1.56. His vert, 34. He benched 22 bench reps, and his 3-cone drill was a 6.97. And taking a look at his snaps by alignment here, he actually lined up in the backfield for 32 snaps. He was an inline tight end for 311 snaps. He played in the slot for 204 snaps, and he was set out wide for 160 snaps. So that really shows off his versatility. Very similar to Tyler Warren. As you can see, both the draft profiles that I've done on tight ends thus far are kind of these tight ends who you can really put all over the field and cause some mismatches here. And he's not the same athlete as Tyler Warren, but both of them are very good athletes that they can cause a little bit of chaos in the secondary with their ability to kind of create these mismatches. So it's going to be interesting to see where Harold Fannin drops in this NFL draft. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up this video about Harold Fannin. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below of whether or not you think Harold Fannin would be a good fit for this Patriots offense. And I will see you all in the next one.